Welcome, everyone. I'm Ingrid Johnston, the CEO of the Australasian College of Road Safety, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome everyone here today to this webinar on the 2025 ACRS Excellence in Road Safety Award Taster webinar. We spend a lot of time in road safety thinking about the enormity of the challenge. And I think it's really great to be able to have the opportunity to just take some time and actually showcase and recognize and appreciate some of the amazing work that's going on. We've got a fantastic collection today of projects that we're going to hear about, covering all sorts of different aspects of road safety from a wide range of different presenters. So it's going to be a really great chance to celebrate some fantastic work that's going on in the road safety sector. I would just like to first start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land where we are. I'm here on Ngunnawal country in Canberra, and I recognise and pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and recognise the overrepresentation of First Nations people globally in road trauma. So, first of all, we are going to hear from the sponsor of this award, AccuSensus. So I would like to welcome Jason Chinchey.
Thank you, Ingrid. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Chinchey, and I'm the General Manager of Australasia at AccuSensus. On behalf of the AccuSensus team, it is an honour to be here today. We're excited to be a gold sponsor for this year's Australasian Road Safety Conference. We're particularly delighted to sponsor the Australian College of Road Safety's Excellence in Road Safety Award, which celebrates the outstanding work that is being done in our shared mission to reduce trauma on our roads and make our roads and communities safer. The work done by this year's nominees is exceptional. So to all the nominees, congratulations. I'd like to tell you a bit about AccuSensus. Changing behaviours and saving lives has been our mission since we were founded in Melbourne, Victoria, only 7 years ago, back in 2018. We are a technology company focused on enhancing road safety through AI-enabled traffic enforcement solutions. Our journey began by pioneering world-first programs for distracted driving, which then led to a world-first program that now simultaneously detects illegal mobile phone use and seatbelt non-compliance. Since then, our product offering has expanded to include speed enforcement, license plate recognition, road worker safety, railway level crossing monitoring, and other data collection initiatives. We are actively working towards a multifunction solution that addresses all 5 of the most common causes of global road fatalities, known as the Fatal 5: distracted driving, not wearing or incorrectly worn seatbelts, speeding, impaired driving, and fatigue. Our current multifunction solution in operation across Western Australia currently tackles 3 of the Fatal 5 behaviours in distraction, seatbelt compliance, and speed, both spot and point-to-point, or average speed, between 2 transportable assets. The solutions also capture AMPR data. We are proud to be contributing to proven behaviour change in the jurisdictions in which we operate and live, especially in Australia. In New South Wales, our mobile phone detection program has led to a 6-fold decrease in mobile phone offences in the period between 2019, which is when we went live, through to the end of 2022. In South Australia, mobile phone use at fixed detection sites dropped by 86% in 9 months after the program went live. Through this proven behaviour change, we have been able to expand the use of our technology locally and internationally. AccuSensus now has offices across Australia, the United States, the United Kingdom, and New Zealand, all working to make our roads a safer place for everyone. Your work, along with our collective efforts, is moving us closer to a future where no one is killed or seriously injured on our roads. We're looking forward to what everyone here is doing in the road safety space. We're excited to see the impact of these innovative projects. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jason. And so we do have a really action-packed program for this webinar. We have 12 different projects that we're going to hear about. And so we will keep the questions to the end So we do have the Q&A function enabled, and so please put your questions into the Q&A and you'll be able to upvote for questions that you also want to hear the answer to, so we can make sure that we are getting the answers to the most popular questions. So this is the order and the projects that we are going to hear from, and each speaker will speak for no more than 5 minutes on their project, and then we will have hopefully a decent amount of time for Q&A at the end. So we will start with our first project, which is from Andrew Hardwick from React Social Impact on the React program, Road Safety Behaviour Change among 17 to 25-year-olds. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks very much, Ingrid, and great to be here. I think this is a great initiative. There's a lot of work that is done by everyone here, and everyone deserves an award for it. So thank you for pulling this together. React has been going since 2016. We, as a creative agency back then, decided that we wanted to give something back to young people as far as giving them a voice, but also a professional experience. And since then, it's become more and more of a passion, and it's now consuming our full-time jobs, etc., to pull that together. So what it is it's peer-to-peer road safety education and awareness program. It works with design communication students where they create campaigns to raise awareness and change the behaviours of 17 to 25-year-old peers on the road. So what we do is we bring in government and industry to guide the students through a program. It's a mandatory program in most cases, and they are guided by the partners to design campaigns for their own age group. So it's actually peer-to-peer awareness and education. They design campaigns and then we launch them in public. We select one of those campaigns from each institution and launch them in public. So over the last 10 years we've been going now, since 2016, we've had over 1,600 students complete the program. 57 million, or over 57 million now, have seen student campaigns out in public and directed towards them, as well as across social media and websites, etc. We've had 70 partners from industry and government participate. So those partners guide the students throughout that process, give them valuable feedback and so forth. As you can imagine, as a young person, road safety isn't necessarily prevalent, top of mind for them. So that guidance is critical. And we have a 95% approval rating with the students that do the program, which is also fantastic. And many of them go on to do further work in road safety, whether it be working in an advertising agency or entering competitions, etc. So our whole purpose is really to amplify the voice of young people in road safety, and we're guided by not only the road safety agencies, where multiple road safety agencies actually, or states actually, have it as part of their state action plans as educating young people. It's also one of the first mandatory road safety programs to be part of the curriculum in the institutions that it runs. So we're guided by the advisory group. We have Ione Lewis, Liz Waller, Jerome Carslake, Rob McInerney, Andrew Baxter and Michael Kelly and Jessica Throng, who we meet with. We select the topic each year based on the feedback and data from the road safety agencies and with the guidance of the advisory group. So earlier this year, we were awarded the UN Regions Award in Marrakesh for Asia Pacific, which is fantastic. And we're now working with them in Chile to, I suppose, support the initiative from the Special Envoy from the UN on their safer and compliant helmets use. So we do many different things around this, but essentially that is what we do. And thank you very much for your time. I won't be sticking around till the end tonight. Unfortunately, I'm overseas, but please feel free to email me any questions at Andrew at reactforchange.org. Feel free to share that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Andy. And perhaps you might just pop your email address into the chat before you head off. And very
Sure, will
much
do.
appreciate you staying up into the wee hours to be able to join
No,
and
that's
chat.
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. Thanks, Ingrid.
Okay, so the next program that we're going to hear about is from Beth Lilford from the Altus Group, which is work zone digitization, safer, greener, more efficient work zones. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you for everybody for joining today. It is an absolute privilege to be here to talk about something that I think sits right at the heart of our industry, and that is keeping road workers safe. I know I've only got a short amount of time, but I do want to start by giving the group a little bit of context around the challenge that we're up against. And that is between 2015 and 2022, 63 road workers lost their lives on Australian roads, and more than 1,200 were seriously injured. In the industry, we know that those figures are underreported. And I think it's important to note that they're not just statistics, they're people, they're our colleagues, and they're our mates. And to us, every one of those incidents is one too many. Road workers do spend their shift just meters away from live traffic. And in 74% of occasions, the vehicles moving through our work zones are exceeding the work zone speed limit. And unfortunately, road workers don't have the slow down, move over laws that the emergency vehicles or breakdown crews have. So that gap leaves us dangerously exposed. At Altus, we absolutely recognise that traditional safety measures like signs, cones, PPE and flashing lights will always be essential, but unfortunately they're just not enough for our people anymore. So we introduced work zone digitisation, and it is quite a complex solution, but in simple terms, it is a digital safety net that wraps around a live work zone and protects the people that are working within it. So I guess think of it as like an invisible shield that uses smart technology like lasers, sensors, alarms to spot and communicate risks as soon as they emerge on site. So we overlay these bits of equipment into our work zones, and we track speed of vehicles, vehicle volume, and any notable driver behaviour, which also allows us to predict risks before they even get to the work zone. So the devices that we put out there, they are built to collect continuous data where that goes up into the cloud, and a if-then logic rule is essentially applied to assess each risk. And some of those rules look like, if a cone is struck, then sound an alarm to alert crews immediately. If the traffic speed is exceeding safe thresholds, then notify the crews to take corrective action. If a sign falls over, then send a real-time alert for repositioning. So the benefits to our frontline workers are immediate, it's powerful, and it gives workers something that they've never had before. And I guess that's the precious seconds to react and move out of harm's way when it matters the most. Each bit of equipment that you can see there has a special role to play. The portable side alarm is arguably the most important bit of kit on the road, and it is what creates a very high decibel alarm that cuts through all the noise on a work zone and gives the people the chance to move to safety. The cone sensors and the lasers, it essentially extends work crews' visibility. So they're not just protected by what they can see, but by what they can't see as well. And the sign tags there, that means that we no longer have to be on the side of the road in that high risk environment checking on something unnecessarily. We have also found that the presence of the technology out on site is having a big impact on driver behaviour too. Our deployments are showing us that vehicles are travelling through a digital work zone 12 kilometres an hour slower than a traditional work zone. So that even that reduction in speed can be the difference between a near miss and something far worse. So we did originally introduce the technology looking through the lens of safety in the moment, but we have realised that the value of the data and equipment extends far beyond that. We no longer have to do those unnecessary site checks, which is not just keeping road workers off live roads, but it's also helped us to cut our carbon emissions significantly. It also has allowed us to enable smarter shift planning, so we can identify high-risk periods and avoid our crews having to work in those unsafe conditions. So as a whole, I would say work zone digitisation has really moved us from a reactive model of safety, where we're responding after something happens, which is traditionally what happens, into a proactive one, where risks are detected early and prevented before they turn into incidents. So I think for road workers, it means one thing, and that is a better chance of getting home safely every single day. And that's what the solution is all about, where safety isn't just left to chance out on the road, but it is a system that is built in, monitored, and enforced every second of the shift. So yeah, that's work zone digitisation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Beth. A really interesting use of technology. Okay, so the next project that we will have comes from Teresa Burnett from Auckland Transport on a great partnership program, Record Breath Testing, a successful partnership with New Zealand Police of enforcement, messaging and data. Thank you, Teresa.
Well, thanks, Ingrid. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon if you're also in the same time zone as me in New Zealand. This is a joint application between us, Auckland Transport, with the local road controlling authority and New Zealand Police. And there's three parts to this project. The police have been doing record breath testing, like roadside breath testing. We've done a lot of general deterrence communications, and we've also changed how we do our data analysis. So we have taken the breath testing device data, and we've combined that with road data so we can produce a network rates of drink driving as way of analysis. So what you can see there on the left is our messaging. It was super, super simple and to the point. It tested really well with customers. They understood it straight away. And because we are the road controlling authority, we also run public transport. So we use a lot of our buses, therefore we didn't have to pay for the advertising space. And we also used our parking buildings as well. So we actually got a lot of free capital and real estate with our marketing, which went quite a long way. And obviously we have a lot of buses. We have 1,300 out on the network every morning. So we had a lot of moving billboards, which was super helpful. On the right, that graph shows you the lovely downward trend that we all like to see in these things. And that's the rates of people who have been drink driving whilst out and about on the network. The green bar shows you the kind of the peak drinking hours of the weekends on Friday and Saturday nights. So this is very much a partnership approach. As I said, it is with the police. They obviously were doing the breath testing and we handled the marketing and the methodology and the analysis. But also we had contributions from ACC and the New Zealand Transport Agency in terms of helping us fund some of our marketing collateral as well. So 4 agencies working together. I was going to tell you. We also tracked public sentiment. So we have a fairly regular rolling survey with our customers, and just to get a feel for how people were feeling about how likely it was that they would get caught if they were drink driving. And that has steadily been going up. And so we have run this campaign 3 times now. And between the second campaign and third campaign, the percentage of people thinking they would get caught if they were drink driving went up by 10%. And we were really, really pleased with that. And that just goes to the general deterrence methodology. Police are out and about. We're telling people police are out and about. And people put those 2 things together and go, oh yeah, we were more likely to get caught. So this was a project led by my colleague, Ping Sim. So I'm presenting on her behalf. And I'm happy to supply, well, she's happy for me to supply her email address if anyone has any further questions about this project. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Teresa. A really important partnership collaboration there. Okay, so the next project that we are going to talk about comes from Hamid Mabaha from the Bundaberg Regional Council, and it's on their network safety plan. Thank you, Hamid.
Thanks, Ingrid, for the introduction. I'm actually presenting today on behalf of my colleague, David Fulton. David, unfortunately, is enjoying his day, this beautiful day, in a campsite somewhere down in the wild. So yeah, I'm here today with you, and I'm very excited to share with you the Bundaberg Regional Council's Network Safety Plan, or as we call it, NSP. This is the first of its kind initiative that could transform how local governments approach road safety. Traditionally, road safety upgrades have been reactive, addressing crashes after they occur, often through the Black Spots program. But our NSP takes a proactive network-wide approach. It ensures that every dollar spent on infrastructure achieves the maximum safety benefit while working, as you know, within the council's funding constraints. This project builds on Australia's national road safety strategy, which introduced the concept of the network safety plan. Bundaberg's plan is a pioneering step, providing a practical model that could inspire other councils across the country and guide local governments through road safety planning into the future. We started this process by undertaking a whole of network risk assessment using OSRAP and ANRAM models. These models gave us a detailed picture of the safety performance of our roads across more than 2,000 kilometers of council's sealed roads, from busy urban streets to quieter rural roads. Next, council defined a clear road safety vision by setting aspirational cross sections designed to achieve a minimum of 3-star safety rating in accordance with OSRAP criteria. By comparing these aspirational designs with the existing network, we could identify the safety gaps and match them with the targeted cost-effective treatments. And as I said, cost is super important in the council environment and the local government. Each proposed treatment was carefully analyzed to see how much risk could be reduced and how many fatal or serious injury crashes could be prevented by each one of those treatments. And this analysis formed the basis of a clear investment roadmap for us, prioritizing actions so the council can deliver the safest possible road network within the available funding. So as you see on this slide, the top right image shows an example of the safety gaps identified when the current road environment is compared with one of the aspirational cross sections, the ones that are applicable to that road environment. The comparison clearly shows where the upgrades are needed. The bottom left graph shows the scale of investment required to achieve different levels of fatal or serious injury saving across the network. Obviously, it's like a sliding graph, so the more you spend on the network, the more you get out of death or serious injury savings. This analysis revealed some interesting points for us. Some of the highest value improvements can be achieved through targeted speed limit reductions, tackling this crash severities on high-risk roads. It also showed that to fully upgrade the network to match the aspirational cross sections, like 3-star, that's being 3-star safety, not 5-star. 3-star safety requires an eye-watering investment of more than $1.35 billion only for Bundaberg region. So there are some key takeaways out of this analysis. First, the NSP ensures that council gets the biggest safety bang for every dollar spent, maximizing the FSI crashes saved for any investment level. So that prioritizes for us, gives us priorities. Second, low-cost mass action treatments like speed management, delineation, or roadside hazard protection deliver the greatest benefit across the network and keeps the program affordable and deliverable. And finally, meeting the national road safety strategy targets on the local government's roads in the desired timeframe requires more than just infrastructure investment. It also calls for a combination of approaches such as safer vehicles or initiative to improve driver behavior. In summary, Bundaberg NSP is more than just a local project. It is bold and innovative step, showing how councils can turn road safety vision into real, measurable, life-saving outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hamid. It's great to see councils pioneering in this space. The next project that we have comes from Adam Malarchik from the Central Coast Council talking about road safety and planning.
Thanks, Ingrid, and it's great to see such important and varied projects. Road safety and planning is critical. New subdivisions and developments add up to 0.5% of the length of the seal road network in Australia each and every year, although this varies from state to state and year to year. Thousands of kilometres of roads, as well as intersections, paths and so on, are created, as can be seen in the picture 1 on that on the slide. These new roads are needed to support and provide movement needs, amongst other purposes, for new developments, which we are going to need to increase considerably more to meet the very high housing targets governments have identified. Almost 40% of all fatalities and more than 50% of all reported crashes occur on local roads. Have a look at Pic 2. That's a 5-year crash map from a subdivision area. Far too many crashes. The Australia's Guide Safe System to Planning Process states, good planning and design sets the foundation for a safe road environment. Another Australia's Guide, Integrated Transport Assessments for Development, states, road safety needs to be given prominence from the earliest stages of strategic planning. These statements are evidence-based. Early intervention is critical. We know safe system is a shared responsibility. All involved, especially from the start of the process, need to know it is a shared responsibility. Road safety needs to be front of mind. Strategic planners, traffic engineers, planners, development engineers, consultants, developers, all share in that responsibility. They need to know, I'll say it again, early intervention is key. It's no good asking for a safe system assessment for a master plan subdivision after it's been marketed. You've missed the boat. No use asking for road safety audits after planning approval has been granted for a large subdivision. You won't capture all the safety issues. At best, you will mitigate some of the risks. No wonder we still have so many crashes and new subdivisions despite our so-called best efforts. A safety assessment that considers all road users is needed to be undertaken very early on in the process. At a strategic design or master plan stage, time and money, these are the two big ticket items to developers, time and money. This proposed development in picture number 3 there was a very early master plan and was for several hundred residential lots, and also creates about 5 kilometres of new roads. To improve road safety risk management and build redundancy into the process, we apply the Swiss cheese model, number 4 picture you can see, and that provides increased layers of protection. We build redundancy into the process by having multiple layers assisting in the management of road safety risk. This includes, but are not limited to, a road safety assessment of the master plan that identified numerous undesirable road safety attributes. And as not much time and money was invested in the project, it was far easier to negotiate with the developers and consultants to identify the road safety issues and get a revised layout. As you can see in number 5, a totally different layout, and it addressed the majority of the layout, the undesirable road safety attributes. We also had the planning assessments and the traffic impact assessment that did some further tweaking. We also had detailed design road safety audits, and we also investigated or reviewed some of the crash data on one of the lead-in roads there to eliminate increased crash risk as a result of increased traffic for the development. Almost 400 of those 500 lots are now occupied, traffic generating from those houses, and we've got about 4 kilometres of those roads built. And after 6 years in operation, we have had 0 reported crashes. These processes are transferable, and we started applying them to a number of greenfield subdivision areas. As you can see in picture number 6 there, that's a 1,500 lot subdivision, a 1,500 child school, and also a 16 hectare industrial development. They've got many undesirable road attributes, and we're trying to eliminate those early on in the piece. These multiple processes build redundancy into the system and will reduce crash risk and road trauma. Early intervention is key. We can't keep contributing to avoidable road trauma. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Adam. And A quick reminder to put your questions into the Q&A if, like me, you're building up a list of them by now from listening to some of these projects. Okay, so the next one that we are going to hear about is a project from Bhavesh Gamire from the Hobson Bay City Council on Railway Avenue Safety Improvement Project. Thank you, Bhavesh.
Thank you, Ingrid, and good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm delighted to share with you the story of the Railway Avenue project in Laverton, a project that really demonstrates how listening to the community and taking a place-based approach can transfer a road safety initiative into something much bigger. This journey began back in 2021-22 when Council successfully secured a black spot program funding for the Railway Avenue. So you can see on the top left is like 1.5 kilometer long stretch between Aviation Road to Merton Street. The original proposal was focused on safety with speed humps and cushions to slow down the traffic and get the outcome. However, when we took this design to the community, the response was clear. The resident didn't feel it was the right solution for the neighborhood. Instead of pushing ahead, we paused and looked for a new approach. That's where the Better Places Laverton initiative came in. So we already had a place guide developed with the local community, which gave us a deeper understanding of their aspirations to see Laverton grow into a welcoming and vibrant business present with greener streets, safe walking and cycling connection, and space that encourage people to meet, shop, and dine locally. So we reframed the Railway Avenue not just as a road safety project, but also a part of a bigger vision, the Railway Avenue Master Plan. So this plan aimed to create a safe and attractive corridor, balancing transport need with the community life. It proposed a wide footpath and safer crossing for school children and pedestrian, and off-road cycling path, landscape, curbed out stand, more parking for the local business, and space to support outdoor dining. We went back to the community with this vision. The feedback was overwhelmingly very positive, and the people could see their idea reflected into the design. So you can see on the top right-hand side saying all those are the treatments, the curb out stand and the crossings. And this year, I'm pleased to say that we delivered the first stage of this vision through the Black Spot funding, which includes roundabout crossings, 1x3, 1x crossings, 2 upgrade roundabouts with pedestrian priority crossings, a curb out stand, pedestrian island for safer access, a landscape area, and expanded outdoor dining space that supports local traders. So this project shows how infrastructure can do more just than improve safety. It can bring life to our street, encourage active travel, and strengthen the local economy. By embedding the principle of the Better Places program, we have been able to achieve not only a safer corridor for Laverton, but also a more inviting, people-focused space that reflects the aspiration for the Laverton community. Railway Avenue is now better connected, greener, and more vibrant, and it's just the beginning of an exciting transformation for Laverton. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bhavesh. That's a really interesting project and great to see such strong community support for it. So next we have Matthew McQuinn from Mornington Peninsula Shire on addressing intersection risk with rural compact roundabouts. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Ingrid. Yeah, I'm Matt McQuinn, Principal Transport Engineer at Mornington Peninsula Shire in Victoria. Unfortunately, we have one of Victoria's worst local government road safety records with 105 fatalities and over 2,300 serious injuries in the past 15 years. More broadly, to meet Vision Zero targets globally, safe system infrastructure must be implemented widely, transforming the road network to be forgiving to prevent fatal and serious crashes. With limited funding, road authorities need cost-efficient treatments to address key crash types. I'll be talking today about addressing rural intersection risk with an innovative approach of compact roundabouts, where we developed, designed and constructed 2 rural compact roundabouts in high-speed environments. A significant amount of road trauma occurs at intersections, accounting for around 40% of fatal and serious injury crashes within the Mornington Peninsula. We have many cross intersections in high-speed environments with 80 km/h plus speed limits, which are high risk. Many have ongoing crash history with crashes increasing over time and high risk of future road trauma. Under the problem heading of the slide, these are two rural road examples. In terms of risk, with complex split-second decisions made at intersections, it's easy to make mistakes. And the consequences can be tragic due to high-speed collisions and a poor crash angle, well above the 50 km/h safe system threshold in right-angle crashes. So what are the potential solutions? Roundabouts are ideal safe system intersection treatments that reduce both the likelihood and severity of crashes, but they can be expensive, particularly in high-speed environments that require large central islands and S-shaped reverse curves on approaches create horizontal deflection to slow vehicles to safe speeds. They may also need utility service relocations, land acquisition, and native vegetation removal, with some recent roundabouts on high-speed state-managed roads being in the $8 to $10 million range. To address costs and space constraints of these two intersections and minimise environmental impact, innovative compact roundabout designs were developed that incorporate vertical deflection, being speed humps known as race safety platforms, to gradually slow vehicles approaching the roundabout, eliminating the need for reverse curves and allowing for smaller central islands that still accommodate large vehicles. The first rural compact roundabout in Victoria at Lance Creek by the Department of Transport still costs $3.4 million, which is well above what we can afford. So we developed a more affordable designs tailored to the local context of these roads, with key design decisions being the central island diameter, race safety platform specifications, platform spacing, truck turning movements, truck stability considerations, and signage. In the solution section of the slide, the design philosophy to achieve a gradual slowing of vehicles approaching the roundabout is shown from the 80 km/h speed limit, approaching the first race safety platform, then approaching the second race safety platform and the roundabout itself. And the result that we constructed is shown in the photos, with the final all-inclusive cost, including project management, design and construction, being around $1.5 million per roundabout. Compass IoT connected vehicle data has been used to assess the effectiveness of each roundabout in achieving safe system threshold speeds of 50 km/h at the roundabout conflict point. The graph and tables show that the mean or the average and 85th percentile speeds are well below 50 km/h, and very few vehicles even in the 40 to 50 km/h range, demonstrating strong safe system performance. So in summary, the two rural compact roundabouts are shown to be effective in achieving safe system aligned performance at a significantly lower cost than conventional reverse curve roundabouts in similar environments, with minimal disadvantages observed or reported to the Shire. Some people didn't like the aesthetic of the race safety platforms and some of the signage, but generally we've received minimal feedback. So these sort of cost-effective solutions have the potential for sort of wide-scale implementation on the path to Vision Zero compared to conventional designs, to try and achieve a safe system network that crashes are less likely and death and serious injury are not the result when crashes occur, and across a broad range of road environments. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matt. Always good to see examples of effective interventions which are actually less expensive. So fantastic. Okay, the next project that we will hear about is from Lisa Scaife from Road Safety Matters My Drive School, talking about driving change through simulation, scalable, smart and inclusive. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Ingrid, and thanks everybody for your time. I'm Lisa Scaife, the CEO and founder of My Drive School and our NFP, appropriately called Road Safety Matters. I was involved in road trauma fatality when I was 22. I've spent 20 years working in professional motorsport, and I have two teenage sons who statistically are killing themselves 4 to 1 on the road. This is why I've spent the last 13 years researching and developing road safety education programs that are fit for purpose for some of the most vulnerable user groups. Fatality rates have been increasing year on year since 2020, and based on beta modelling, this will continue unless something changes. We'd like to be part of that change. Our primary objective is prevention, using proven training methodologies to improve competency levels and reduce anxiety. In the past 50 years, Every aspect of road safety has been improved and modified, except for the way we teach people how to drive. Roads and infrastructure, policing, enforcement, vehicle technologies, and medical interventions have improved exponentially. Despite this, the crash rate incidence is higher than ever. We're keeping people alive after they've crashed. Over 70% of road trauma is caused by driver error. And in the first 3 years, that comes up to over 90%. This is where we have the greatest capacity for improvement. My Drive School is a combination of simulation, gaming, and artificial intelligence, delivered in its most simplest format on PC or laptop with a portable steering wheel and pedal set. It's a series of graduated pass-fail learning modules. It's safe, it's fun, and it works. In a blind randomized test, our users rated 48% more competent and 17% less anxious. Our Stage 1 program was launched at the 2019 Grand Prix and was designed to bridge the gap between theory and practical driver training, covering basic steering, acceleration, intersections, and emergency braking exercises. Our Stage 2 program is to help prepare learners for solo driving. It's more focused on behavioural issues, such as texting, distractions, drug and alcohol impairment, and fatigue, and doing hazardous scenarios that are too dangerous to train for in real life. This program was released last year and covers 4 of the 5 primary causes of road trauma. The next phase of development will add other traffic into the program to help drivers understand how to share the road safely with heavy vehicles, buses, motorbikes and cycles. To date, approximately 50,000 users have played My Drive School, and we've only just begun. My Drive School was designed for learner drivers aged 15 to 18, but is now used for so many other vulnerable cohorts. Not having a driver's license is one of the biggest barriers of entry for employment. And as such, we work with employment services, community groups, and local LGAs nationally. We work with Clontarf, PCYC, Salvos, Mission Australia, and several councils and libraries to support youths, First Nations, migrants, and other disadvantaged cohorts. The program is also used by allied health professionals and OTs who use the program as a training and assessment tool. If their clients can successfully pass My Drive School, they can progress to in-car lessons. If not, they can identify where they need further support or recommend alternative mobility options. My Drive School is classified as an assistive technology for specialised driver training, personal care and safety, or capacity building, and available to anyone on the NDIS. I believe learning to drive should be open to all, fun for all, and safe for all. My objective is to continue to build training modules for all scenarios and conditions, so all learner drivers can safely gain experience, cognitive skills, and muscle memory online before they ever get on road. Last year, 243 people aged 17 to 25 died on Australian roads and 39 drowned. Yet we have 5 to 6 years of mandatory swimming lessons in primary schools and no driver training in secondary schools. Our program is aligned to the Australian curriculum, and we can provide simulation training to every secondary school in Australia for less than the cost of half a day of road trauma. The average fatality rate of 18 to 20-year-olds is double the national average. We need to do better, and we want users to make their mistakes online, not on road. Thanks very much for your time.
Great. Thank you very much, Lisa. Another innovative use of technology. So the next project that we're going to hear about comes from Robin Ann Dixon from the Northern Beaches Council on youth e-bike safety, Know the e-bike code. And just a reminder, we will have a Q&A session at the end of all the presentations. So please put your questions into the Q&A, and that's where we'll go to look for questions to be answered. Thank you, Robin Ann.
Thanks, Ingrid. Yeah, in 2022, one of the e-bike manufacturers had an interesting marketing campaign. They gave their bikes to key surfers on our beaches. Now, on the Northern Beaches, we have a real hero worship by youth of our surfers, and so it was a natural progression for these youth to say, well, we can emulate our heroes by getting these e-bikes. And so that meant that in 2022, as shown in the graph I've got, that there was a sudden and rapid rise in the use of e-bikes by young teenagers, typically around 14 years old. So from a road safety perspective, I'm a road safety officer at council, so we recognise that the threat that these bikes showed, that there's a picture of one there, they're basically like a small motorbike. They're huge, they're heavy, and they're silent. And we started getting lots of complaints from residents of sharing the paths with these e-bikes because of the size, because of what they are. Many residents were being very frightened and having a lot of near misses and sometimes being hit by these e-bikes. The challenge that council had, though, is they're actually a positive thing because they represent an alternative to driving a car, and it gives people independence. So it was interesting to know, well, how do we actually address this issue? There are a number of limitations that we had when we had to consider this. The first one being the age of these riders being about 14. They have an attitude of where, oh, I'm right, Jack, I can do anything I want, I can ride wherever I want, I'm the centre of my world and I don't have to think about anyone else. They're also an age where they haven't yet learned how to drive a car and therefore how to know the road rules. We also had an issue with Transport for New South Wales because when we contacted them for help of could they help us with resources, they said, well, at this stage in 2022, Northern Beaches Council was the only area that had this issue, and since they are a statewide service, they said they couldn't justify developing resources for us. And so therefore council, recognising that our community had expectations for us to deliver a solution, and because we recognised a duty of care, we recognised that we had to do something. The other big issue that we were facing is gaps in legislation, that even the police could do nothing about following up with them because the legislation is still focused on just your typical bike that doesn't really have speed issues, doesn't really have weight issues and all of that. Therefore, what could we do? What was our solution? So because we couldn't do any enforcement, we recognised that we could do education and behaviour change, and so that was our approach. We recognised we had 3 targets, the primary one being the actual young riders themselves, but also the parents who are buying the bikes in the first place, and thirdly, the whole community, because the whole community was aware that this was an issue and wanted council to respond in some way. So we came up with a message with 3 simple messages, which we called the e-bike code, where it was slow down, ring your bell, be ready for sudden changes. We wanted something that could just be very simply be followed by the youth. And we saturated our Northern Beaches with various means of promotion through call flutes, such as one on the image there. We even got on the news. We promoted through schools, through pop-up stores, police, and we had a website which we regularly promoted to say, here's the information about what you can safely and legally do on an e-bike. And so our results proved very positive. Firstly, we were the first government agency to run an e-bike education campaign. And our stats proved, based on customer feedback, resident feedback, that there was a reduction in these complaints, that it was a successful campaign. And the other acknowledgement we had was flattery is through copying, and we had a number of councils actually copy our basic 3 steps. So we're grateful to have run that campaign. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Robin Ann. And I dare say Transport for New South Wales might give you a different answer today than, gosh, you're the only one. Fantastic to hear that. Okay, the next project that we're going to hear about is from Jerome Carslake from the National Road Safety Partnership Program on their Toolbox Talks. Thanks, Jerome.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So for those of you who know me, I'm Director of the National Road Safety Partnership Program. And for those of you who aren't familiar with us, our vision is simple, to help businesses and organisations eliminate workplace road trauma, which makes up nearly half of all work-related fatalities. We do this by empowering organisations through learning, sharing and collaboration. Basically, we develop evidence-based packages to reduce instances. So as Ingrid mentioned, our nomination for the ACRS Road Safety Excellence Award is our Toolbox Talks, which are essentially a low-cost suite of innovative evidence-based packages designed to help organisations enhance workplace road safety and build a positive road safety culture. Our Toolbox Talks make it easy for anyone to lead an engaging conversation with workers on a wide range of road safety topics. They're free, accessible to businesses of all sizes, co-designed with industry partners, peer-reviewed by experts, and tailored to address real road safety concerns for businesses. Each pack includes around 15 plus resources from posters, slides, talking points, and videos. What this means is organisations can really adapt the package to what best suits their organisation. So it's not essentially a one-size-fits-all. Since 2018, we've released more than 70 Toolbox Talks covering driver-related risks such as fatigue, distraction, alcohol and drugs, vehicle and trip-related issues such as blind spots, journey planning, and environmental factors such as sun glare and weather. The first 18 Toolbox Talks were developed and were funded through 7 corporate partners, which once completed all agreed to make them freely available, and that's where our journey began. Our real breakthrough came when one partner came back to us and identified sun glare as a major risk. We created our first Toolbox Talk with a video content because this way you could really highlight and see what the risk was going on, which became a turning point. Toll Group went ahead and used our Toolbox Talk and rolled it out across their entire fleet. And after years of really struggling to engage drivers on this issue with their own Toolbox Talks, they found the new NRC format really resonated. From that success and being championed by Toll, our first Toolbox Talk working group on heavy vehicles came together. And we brought together industry leaders, including competitors, to really focus on co-designing and developing the free open resources. With the support of a Heavy Vehicle Safety Initiative, 20 videos were produced featuring drivers themselves telling the stories. And this was quite a little nuance just for this group. This peer-to-peer approach has proved highly engaging, with companies now lining up to have their drivers featured. And the success has led to another 6 Toolbox Talks being funded on identified gaps through industry, and the Victorian government looked after 3 for the construction sector. We've also had major corporate partners coming back to us seeking to sponsor entire Toolbox Talks just for the light vehicle Toolbox Talk packages, which their businesses needed as a stopgap to fill in because they couldn't meet what they required. And once completed, once again, they all came back to the NRSP website. I just want to share one example of success, which is the NRSP program partner, Gemini, who used the Toolbox Talk as a central conversation engagement tool over a 12-month period with their workers. And what they found was both the incident numbers and direct costs were reduced by a third. So the program has grown rapidly. Light vehicles, grey fleet resources, and the heavy vehicles now being translated to packages in Punjabi, Arabic, and simplified Chinese. And we've even adapted the sun glare package for a US peak association. So we had to Americanize it a little bit. To date, Toolbox Talks have been downloaded nearly 8,000 times, praised by drivers, businesses, and regulators alike, and been integrated into major campaigns and training programs, like the recently released construction driver training pack here in Victoria. So, NRSP, we believe road safety is not a competitive advantage, but a shared one. And I think our Toolbox Talks are really proof of principle in action as a low-cost, easy, accessible example for everyone. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Jerome. Great to see peer work being so effective. Okay, our next project is from Greg Mikowski from the Royal Automobile Club of Queensland on their Fix the Bruce road safety campaign. Thank you, Greg.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gregory Miskovich. I'm the Traffic and Safety Engineering Manager at RACQ. So in a nutshell, the Fix the Bruce campaign utilised OSRAP star ratings, crash data and member survey insights to show Queensland was being underfunded, and this was having terrible road safety outcomes. The Bruce Highway is Queensland's major national highway. It's the backbone of Queensland, but it's substandard and is desperately in need of upgrade. Each year on the Bruce Highway, an average of 35 people die and over 400 are seriously injured. 42 died in 2024. Also, in 2019, almost half of the Bruce was rated just 2 stars out of 5 for infrastructure safety under OSRAP. A survey we conducted in 2024 asking our members to rank a list of their top 10 priorities for the upcoming state and federal elections showed fixing the Bruce as their top priority. In addition, in 2024, Early in 2024, the federal government announced a cut of its funding share for new regional infrastructure projects from 80% down to 50%. This move would shortchange Queenslanders and risk delaying critical safety upgrades. So we launched the Fix the Bruce campaign in response to those issues, calling for a long-term funding commitment to eliminate all dangerous two-star sections and return to 80% funding. But what we needed was a great statistic, something solid that we could build the campaign around and easily and clearly explain to government and the public the need for investment. But there wasn't any public available data on crash rates. So we decided to build a campaign around a map showing a comparison of fatal and serious crash rates against other interstate national highways, which were the Pacific Highway and the Hume Highway. Firstly, we had to locate the necessary raw crash and traffic volume data before conducting our own calculations of fatal and serious crashes per 100 million vehicle kilometres travelled, which is often called individual risk in AUSRAP. This revealed that in regional sections, the Bruce Highway had an average crash rate 3 to 5 times higher than the Pacific and the Hume Highway. The comparison of crash rates could be easily seen on the map, which is located in the top left image in the slide. Now, any effective campaign and pressure on government needs good media attention. And to gain more of that and get an even better push and buy-in from the federal government, we needed to join forces with major Queensland organisations who rely on the Bruce Highway each and every day. So RACQ approached a list of campaign partners who jumped at the chance to join us. And they were Queensland Farmers Federation, Queensland Trucking Association, Local Government Association of Queensland, the Queensland Tourism Industry Council, and the Royal Australasian College of Surgeons, Queensland. In 2024, RACQ's communications team leveraged our strong media presence to hold a press conference to launch the Fix the Bruce campaign with partners in support. The launch involved TV stations, radio, online and print media, and that's the image on the lower left. We also developed a Fix the Bruce website with interactive crash map and videos, which is the lower middle image, and wrapped our semi-trailer, which is called the Mobile Member Centre, in Fix the Bruce livery, and plan to take the truck and RACQ patrol vehicle on a Fix the Bruce tour, holding community events at major cities from Brisbane to Cairns, with supporters of the campaign to sign the car as a petition on wheels to take to Canberra. The campaign built a strong evidence-based case, and there was consistent and strong advocacy and media content from RACQ and partners, meetings with government officials, including a face-to-face with Catherine King. After all of this, on the 6th of January of this year, prior to the tour invites being sent out, the federal government announced a commitment to funding 80% of a new $9 billion safety package to upgrade the Bruce Highway to a minimum of 3 stars by 2032, with the state government funding the other 20%, which perfectly matched the Fix the Bruce campaign goals. The cherry on the cake was that the federal government even mentioned the 3 to 5 times crash risk rate and RACQ and project partners in their own media release, highlighting the campaign's success. The safety upgrade will go a long way to reducing deaths and serious injuries on our major national highway, and it was a major win for Queenslanders. We'd like to thank our members and partners whose support made it possible, and federal and state government for their funding. And thank you for the opportunity to be involved in the ACRS Excellence in Road Safety Award and present the Fix the Bruce campaign today.
Great. Thank you, Greg. And it's always amazing when you see a campaign like that and they actually provide the amount of money you're asking for instead of like half of what you're asking for. So very well done. Okay, the last project that we are sharing today comes from Tom White from Transport for New South Wales on motorcap and crash ratings, improving motorcycle riders' knowledge to reduce fatalities and serious injuries. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Ingrid. Yeah, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about our programs, Motorcap and Crash. And they're about, as you said, improving motorcycle rider knowledge to enhance their protection in a crash and reduce the potential for heat stress. The relevant road safety issues we're addressing were clearly shown in past Australian research, which looked at what riders wore in real crashes. Alarmingly, a significant portion of motorcycle-specific clothing was failing to do its job in protecting the wearer, as you can see in this photo of a damaged jacket in the top left here. Motorcycle clothing is not required to meet any minimum standards in Australia or New Zealand, so the performance can vary widely. While motorcycle helmets must meet one of a number of standards, helmet performance also varies, and there was no way for a rider to know which products outperform others so they could maximise their safety. In addition to these questions about protection, we know that wearing motorcycle gear in hot weather can lead to overheating and fatigue, which can impair safe riding. This often leads to low usage rates when temperatures rise, such as what's seen here in that second image in the top left of a rider wearing only the mandatory helmet, exposing him to a very high risk of injury if involved in a crash. So our solution was to provide independent testing and assessment of the safety and breathability of motorcycle gear, and provide that information to riders so they can make informed decisions about the products they decide to buy and wear. Motorcap and Crash provide 5-star ratings for motorcycle jackets, pants, gloves, and helmets, and now has over 1,300 products with that information readily available at motorcap.com.au. Similar to the new car assessment programs such as ANCAP, Motorcap and Crash aim to foster strong consumer demand for safer products and to drive manufacturers to produce better gear. The programs recently underwent an independent evaluation to understand if they're achieving their aims and looking for opportunities to improve what's offered. As part of that evaluation, a survey of around 1,300 riders found that 61% had used the website before, and the vast majority of those that had found the ratings to be trustworthy and easy to understand. 1 in 2 of these riders learned important information from the website, including that not all gear is equal, and around 1 in 3 perform the desired behaviour, which is shortlisting products to then go to a store and try on, or purchasing safer gear. So the programs are now looking to build on this potential with a current strong focus on raising awareness and use of the website so that more riders can choose the right gear for their ride. Our Motorcap and Crash wouldn't exist without the support of the partner organisations who oversee and contribute funding to the programs. As you can see from the logos along the bottom here, there are 12 members, which are government organisations in each state of Australia and in New Zealand, as well as the Australian Motorcycle Council representing riders. And we thank all the partners for their ongoing support. The programs also leverage local expertise in clothing and helmet testing and research provided by the Institute for Frontier Materials at Deakin University, Transport for New South Wales Crash Lab, and Macintosh Consultancy and Research. So I encourage you to visit motorcap.com.au, take a look at the information we provide, particularly if you're a rider and in the market for some new gear. We'll be at a stand at the Road Safety Conference, so if you're attending and interested in hearing more, please come by and say hello and have a look at some of the products we've tested. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. What a fascinating range of projects we've heard from. Lots of different areas of road safety being touched on and lots of different organisations involved. So it's fantastic. Okay, we do have a couple of questions in the chat. The first one is for Rob and Anne. Will future programs on e-bikes look at protective clothing?
Oh, thanks, Ingrid. That's an interesting question. I think because of the scope of who is riding them, the very wide range, I think it's something that can be recommended, but to have it regulated, I see that that's a real difficulty. At the moment, we're being challenged by looking at should there be licensing. So I think to look at regulatory clothing, while recommended, yes, but regulated, I think that would be very difficult just because of the number of people who ride bikes.
Thank you. We have another question for Tom. What is the international reach of Motorcap?
There's a lot of international traffic to the Motorcap website. I think around 60% of our website traffic is in Australia and New Zealand, and then that's followed by interest in the US and countries in Europe, as well as lots of interest dotted around the globe. So there is significant international interest in the ratings for motorcycle gear.
Absolutely. It's such a huge issue in so many countries around the world. I have a question for Beth, while we let some more filter into the Q&A. What's the take-up been like of the tech that you've developed for road worker safety? Beth.
Yeah, thanks, Ingrid. I mean, change in the industry is quite hard. We are an industry that has always used traditional methods, and it hasn't fundamentally changed a hell of a lot in the past decade. So it was always going to be a challenge, especially with road workers seeing new bits of technology and AI coming in and feeling like they were going to be replaced. So it was really important that we brought them along on the journey with us to let them know, no, this is us investing in your safety. We then made sure that we partnered with clients that had aligned safety values to us and wanted to invest in their people. And we worked really hard on getting the trials and everything done with them. That has then had a flow-on effect, because once you've got some proven case studies out there and the data to show the equipment performing, the take-up has been brilliant, actually. And we've had a lot of support from the road regulators. So it's been very positive. You're on mute, Ingrid.
I mean, that's a very good point. Thank you. I've got a question for Teresa. We know that the combination of both messaging and enforcement is really important to get the impact. You ended up with 4 different agencies involved in that partnership. What lessons did you learn from creating that partnership for action?
With the police, it's a long-standing relationship. So we have a governance group, which we call the Tamaki Makaurau, which is Auckland's governance group for road safety, and that's all the partners. And that group has been working together for probably about 10 years now. So long-standing relationships. But what it really came down to is we kind of led the way and said, we're doing this. We did it once. It proved successful. We took that to other agencies and said, do you want to replicate this? Do you want to come on board? And they were like, yeah. So try it, see how it goes, show your results, and then you can gather more steam.
Fantastic. Thank you. And a question for Lisa. Do you envisage your program being given recognition under the graduated licensing system for the hours requirements?
Ultimately, that is our end goal, for it to be integrated into the GLS, because I mean, they estimate simulation training, 1 hour of simulation training is worth about 4 to 5 hours of real-time driver training, because it takes away the anxieties of a moving vehicle and improves retention levels. So again, that's one of the safest ways to train for a lot of scenarios that you can't train for safely in real life. So yes, absolutely, that's where that's our goal.
Fantastic, thank you. A question for Hamid. Were you able to get input and commitment from across your council for the network safety plan, especially considering you're a bit of a pioneer in this space? What was it like to get that input?
So it was actually a challenge. So given that it was the first time being done in Queensland, and basically we were working based on almost nothing. So it was like a mention of network safety plan and not much guidance in any documentation and stuff. So we had to sort of create everything. So it was a bit of a challenge at the beginning to convince managers to invest money and resources. But then when we managed to prove the importance of this work and the fact that we don't need to wait for the crashes to happen, and we can actually proactively find them and identify them and address them before causing crashes, it made it much easier. Don't want to exaggerate and say it was too easy. No, it wasn't too easy, but yeah. Overall, or given the size of the council, we had a good conversation with everyone involved and managed to get some good information around costing and type of treatments, what works, what doesn't work, and basically finding the right solutions for the right environments.
Great, thank you. And a similar kind of question to Adam. How receptive have you found the planners to be to starting that road safety conversation so much earlier?
Thanks, Ingrid. I've been doing this for quite a few years now, and I've actually trained a lot of our planners. So they actually come and see me now and ask, what road safety attributes do you want to put into this development type too? So There's been a lot of acceptance in that space, particularly our LGA is similar to Matt's. We've got a really high fatality and serious injury crash rate in our local government area that we're trying to reduce. And this is part of that in trying to reduce that, getting all our new roads, because we're a reasonably high developing area. We generate probably 1,000 new lots a year in 10 to 20 kilometres of new roads a year. So that's all part of that journey, and the planners are on board with it. So.
Fantastic. Thanks, Adam. Bhavish, have you, with such strong community support that you were able to harness for this project that you did, have you been then able to build on that momentum and use that community support for other initiatives in your area?
Not at the stage, because this is just the first time that we use that momentum, I would say, but it's not that we will be stopping from here. We have just started our journey, taking that momentum from that Laverton group. Now we will be moving towards the other area, like the Altona, which is the other business present. So we did. Oh yeah, definitely we did one. Sorry, I missed that now. We did one last year. To get that momentum of the making a business present in this Altona area, and we did receive a really good response on that. It's just about the budget, and the constraint is always the budget. Where do we get that? And we're working on the background for that. So yes, we have done that.
Fantastic, thank you. A question for Matt. Given that these compact roundabouts are effective and less expensive, they seem like a no-brainer. Are there compromises involved?
We don't really think so. I think the hurdles are probably various, but traditional thinking is one of the main hurdles to think a roundabout needs to look like. Look a certain way in a certain speed environment, and it's discussions we have with other road authorities as well. Not particularly if you think about the types of vehicles that need to go through the roundabout, other road users like cyclists, if there's any, pedestrians, if there's any, depending on where it is, and that sort of thing. There's no real compromises that we've noticed or experienced. So I think they should be, well, the way to put it, I suppose, is reverse curve roundabouts in high-speed environments have got more and more sort of opulent over time. You sort of want to achieve a relatively high vehicle speed for through traffic and freight and that sort of thing, which I think is probably one of the wrong goals to have, given it doesn't really have much impact to travel times. But then, there's something like a truck rollover because a truck going too fast. So we need a bigger central island than we previously had, and harsher reverse curves, which needs wider road reserves and more land acquisition. And then but then vehicle speeds are too high. So we need an even bigger central island and even more reverse curves to try and slow passenger vehicles down. And it's just become a process over several decades that's really made them bigger, more expensive. So to more control it with vertical deflection in a narrower band with a higher confidence of what vehicle speeds you'll achieve, while taking into account those other key aspects that I mentioned, to a large extent, it's the limited or traditional thinking that seems to be limiting them the most.
Great, thank you. A question for Jerome. Has the toolbox approach looked to prepare materials for gig economy riders?
Good question. We're actually in the process, we've actually formed a group called the On-Demand App Delivery Working Group, because people from that sector don't like being called the gig. And one of the things we did a rubric analysis of a lot of the content that they've got in place, and we're sort of framing up an idea of how we can sort of looking at creating some content for that. So we're sort of having discussions with one or two of the different partners to see how we can bring them together. It's always a very complicated issue in that sector, because obviously the term independent contractors versus workers is how they actually put the information out there, and then trying to get that group to pick it up. So I think with the opportunity of translating some of the content into short bite-sized chunks, there's a big opportunity, but it might have to be a bit more of a tighter, different sort of format for that target group.
Thanks, Jerome. A question for Greg. How important was the local community input to the campaign, given that ultimately the audience was the federal government, but it was a strong grassroots campaign? How important was that?
So we're certainly a mobility organisation, and we want to protect our members and ensure they have safe drives around Queensland, whatever mode choice they choose. But in regional Queensland, certainly the roads and the crashes on roads and the condition of roads are a major issue for them, and we hear that from them time and time again through our various surveys, unroadworthy roads, as well as our election type surveys where they can vote on what they feel is the highest priority. So yeah, the local community is very important. It was going to be a large part of this campaign, was to try and involve as much of the regional community in advocating for the federal government and putting pressure on them. So we tried to tackle it in as many different ways as possible through other organisations who partnered with us, but also our members throughout Queensland. So that's a very large part of anything, is both the public as well as organisations putting pressure on the federal government to spend the money where it's needed the most.
Thank you. Another question for Tom. Do you see a role for regulation or industry incentives to ensure safer gear becomes the norm rather than relying on consumer choice guided by the motor cap ratings?
Yeah, it's a good question. Following the research that I mentioned that was conducted by Liz Jerome and her team identifying this problem in motorcycle gear, a whole host of options were considered, and she prepared a report for the MAA of New South Wales, which you might be able to find online, which looked at all the options, and the preferred response for the Australian New Zealand context was setting up MotorCap, the consumer rating scheme, as opposed to regulation in that space. And I think that's where it will stay for the moment. But in terms of incentives, it's a good point. And at least in New South Wales, as part of our current road safety action plan, we're looking at the feasibility of incentivising the uptake of the use of protective gear, and yeah, exploring the incentivizing of products tied to motor cap ratings is something we're looking at. So yeah, the idea that safer gear is more the norm, as you're suggesting. So yeah, it's something we're looking at.
Great, thank you. Another question for Beth. You mentioned a 12 km/h reduction in speed from the use of the work zone digitisation. What mechanism or element of the technology do you think it was that led to the speed reduction?
Yeah, great question. I think it's worth noting, just to start with, that on average vehicles are moving through the work zone 21 k's over the speed limit. So whilst 12 kilometres is absolutely a reduction, it is still an exceedance of speed. But I think the thing that's impacting driver behaviour is it looks different. You can really tell that there is a work zone out there. All the equipment is colour coded to reflect the risk rating. So the cone sensors and the alarms are all green when the site is safe and works are good to continue. If at any point there's an incursion or a breach, the alarms go off and everything goes red. So it is quite impressive to drive through. It looks almost like a airport runway with all the lights there. So I think it's just that visual warning to drivers, which is really having an impact on the speed moving through there.
Fantastic, thank you. There's a couple of questions for Lisa. So first of all, do you think your program could be used to test elderly driver competency? And also, do you see the potential for VR integration to provide riders with more realistic simulations similar to the level we see in flight training today?
Okay, elderly, yes, absolutely. We actually have used it with elderly before. And, it would be an ideal tool for relicensure for the elderly too, actually, because we can test reaction times and coordination skills and things like that. In terms of VR, our program can run in VR. We did VR with it back in 2017. but I don't actually find VR a great tool for it. It's just it's just more expensive hardware that you don't really need. It doesn't actually improve the learning outcomes at all. So, we just sort of say, well, you want to be able to use it as simply and cost effectively as possible. When you can roll it out a lot cheaper, you'd be better off just doing it that way. VR, there's a little bit higher engagement, but then you've got about 20% of the population that will get VR sickness or simulation sickness. And that's usually based on age. But in one test we were doing at a school years ago, I had a 15-year-old girl, wouldn't have been on the VR for more than 2 or 3 minutes. She literally went green and had to run outside and vomit. So that's not a fun test. So yeah, VR, we can, if you like, it is available in VR.
Thank you. A couple of questions for Rob and Anne that are kind of related. So, given the gaps in legislation and the limits of localised campaigns, how do you see councils balancing short-term education programs with the need for broader statewide or even national regulatory approaches to e-bike safety? And kind of along those lines as well, I was thinking about the differences in the response where you've got e-bikes that have been tampered with regard to the speed that they can do.
Oh, great questions. I think from a council perspective, I think our communities expect us to do something. And so I feel that there does need to be something, even though it can only be short term, just because of the nature of how councils are. A couple of the most effective things we did was doing community pop-up stalls with police so that police could do the enforcing while we did education. And one of the great advantages of that is then when residents would write to us and say, when is council going to do something about this? We could say, well, this is what we have been doing, as have the police, because there's often a perception that nothing's being done. We've also worked really closely with the schools. So I think giving schools resources is helpful. But the bottom line is you have to have both of them. You have to have your council recognising, your local council see that you're doing something. So I believe you need to do something while at the same time lobbying for a legislative change. With respect to the overriding of the speeds, I believe that in the new generation of e-bikes, they're making that more difficult, which that's come from a lot of feedback to the manufacturers saying this is just not appropriate. So thankfully, there's now a change there. But it's a tricky one. It's difficult to enforce. It's difficult to educate because the kids just, well, whether it's kids or whether it's adults, they like having that ability to go fast. But that needs to be governed through legislation. That's the only way it can be handled, I believe. Thanks, Ingrid.
Thanks, Rob and Anne. One for Jerome. Are there patterns in which of the Toolbox Talks topics are the most popular? You're on mute.
That would help, wouldn't it? Basically, I guess the usual 5 seem to always pop up. Fatigue is a big one. Mobile phones, I guess distraction, all the usual sort of ones go in there. But I guess the key sort of approach that we sort of found is they can be used as a way of creating a conversation piece. So that's why they sort of intertwine with each other. And the other part is, I guess, with the video design as well, because we use truck drivers and other ones in that sector, and they see their peers talking to each other, they can get quite animated into their opinions as to what someone else is saying on the screen versus them. So it becomes as quite an engaging tool. So they don't just sit there and shut up because they see a peer talking. But yeah, I think the usual ones sort of pop in there, but I think by expanding, having a broader way, it becomes a regular sort of conversation piece, and they can sort of see how, I guess, road safety is more entwined than just the simple basics. I guess one quick example is obviously the relationship of fatigue flows into distraction and aggression and those other human-related elements.
Yeah, thank you, Jerome. And we'll finish on a question that to each of you. You might all like to contribute a response. As sponsor of this award, how can enforcement initiatives like ACRS work together with other broader aspects of road safety as presented by today's nominees. So I'll just go around my screen and ask each of you to respond to that. So Lisa.
You had to ask me first. I mean, AccuSensus is a brilliant product. I've been following the journey with Alex for quite some time. And to teach anybody how to not use a phone whilst driving is brilliant. We've actually included a whole module in our program with a phone, where so users actually have to, you know, push some buttons whilst they're doing an exercise to train people in the use consequences of, you know, driving whilst impaired, to show and demonstrate cause and effect. Anything we can do to reduce the incidence of phone usage whilst driving is brilliant.
Thanks, Lisa. Next, I have Adam.
Thanks, Ingrid. That's a great question, but it sort of doesn't really apply to sort of the scope of area that I'm in. I'm more looking at predictive and proactive treatments to identify crash risk early on and eliminate the possibility of that. So I'm not really sure how that applies to sort of the planning side of things. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Jerome.
I think a big one is on that one is how you get people to self-regulate, because obviously you can't have that technology all the way around you. It's only working when it's in the radar, when it's sort of being looked at. So it's how you actually change habits and sort of engage people in the conversation piece. And I think the key thing is if you can get people to self-regulate, understand their own components, and you can flow that into the rest of the part of the journey as well. So it's not really just around mobile phone distractions, but all the other elements. If you can pull everyone back and just be in the moment, and I think that's where you can sort of hopefully have a conversation and engage them that way. I might be a bit romantic and hopeful in my thinking because it doesn't seem to be working generally with all the elements, but I think we've got to sort of be creative in how we can sort of engage them and hope for the best.
Thanks, Jerome. Tom.
Yeah, well, I guess from my perspective, it'd be great if we could use those tools to not only look at helmet compliance. We see quite good helmet compliance, but non-use of helmets is far overrepresented in fatal and serious injury crashes. But if we could go further and look at use of protective equipment, protective clothing by riders, and help us understand, you know, areas where we might get poor use, and we could put more resources in directing the right messages in the right places.
Thanks, Tom. Next, I have Greg.
Sure. In relation to enforcement, and typically on the Bruce Highway, there are some initiatives there looking at speed and other AI type camera, seatbelt, mobile phone camera technologies being expanded to those sorts of roads, but also in other areas that we're looking at. You know, there is, you know, further work that can be done in terms of learner driver AI training, motorcycle training, a couple of the initiatives that we're looking at currently to using that sort of technology. But yeah, in terms of the enforcement, we've used or they are being used in Queensland itself.
Great, thanks. Robin Ann.
Yeah, thanks. It's because we're talking behaviour, it's with people riding bikes, it's tricky, but certainly mobile phones are an issue as well with e-bikes, but I'd love to see AccuSensus think about their brain trust of what they could do to see how can we promote safer behaviour with people riding e-bikes with respect to keeping to the speed limit, not modifying their bikes and being considerate of others. So if AccuSensus can come up with something, I think that'd be fantastic.
Great, thanks, Robin Ann. We'll have to be quick. Matt.
Yeah, I think we can do our best in the sort of engineering side of things in terms of safe system, but you know, the other sort of 3 E's that we sometimes talk about between education, encouragement and enforcement help support those sort of safe system elements, and particularly local government where our engineering solutions are going to be hard to implement at scale across the whole road network. So there's other sort of 3 E's that sort of that enforcement, encouragement, and education can help with, yeah, certainly valuable.
Great, thanks. Bhavish.
Definitely, we're moving towards zero. We all know that death and serious injuries in coming years of time, and people are always concerned at the intersections and stuff. But with this kind of technology, definitely, if people would be aware every time, not functioning that intersection over there, there's a camera, or the instrument is there to capture them, and they should always be regulating themselves with the safe system, and putting themselves in a place to make themselves safer, I believe.
Thank you. Hamid.
So I think one of the things that we find out of our analysis was some of those motorcycle crashes were some of those sticky ones that regardless of what sort of investment in infrastructure, you can't really address them all. So any sort of advancement, use of technology or in addressing those sort of things, not relying on investment infrastructure, but relying on technology and preventing or driver behavior improvement would be really helpful.
Great, thank you. Teresa.
I think behaviour change is the notoriously tricky part of road safety. It's quite hard to get humans to do what is probably best for them sometimes. So I think technology can bring so much to the space, especially in terms of compliance, and it's a relatively cheap option as well. So I think the potential is enormous.
Thank you. And Beth.
Yeah, I mean, what ACRS does is something so complementary to what we're trying to push as well. And when we trace back a lot of our incursions and breaches, a lot of it's to do with mobile phone usage. So I think ACRS can play a continued role in continually shining a light on the problem. A lot of people want to see data and see facts, and they can give us that stuff. So yeah, it's more just keep fighting the good fight, share the case studies with everybody so that we can invest in, like Jerome said, self-regulation and education.
And that's a great note to finish on. Keep fighting the good fight and sharing the stories. Thank you, everyone. It was a fantastic showcase of some wonderful work that's going on in road safety. And I look forward to welcoming you all to the conference in Perth, where we will find out the winner of this award for this year. So thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see you in Perth in a few weeks.